Hi everyone, this is Andrew Adams again with our third video, which I mentioned from the second one on how to make colors. Now before we get into that, real quick, we need to understand about CSS, which is the Cascading Style Sheet. And just to make sure I'll understand, this is what our website currently looks like, but it's all on one side, which HTML does that. But this is where CSS comes in and makes those changes. But right now, I'm going to introduce you to CSS, but we're going to stick with colors before moving on to the big stuff. Now, when doing CSS, you have two options. You can either do an external or you can do outside coding. And what I mean by that is, for instance, I added these styles right here. Matter of fact, why don't I just for now take this out? This is how our website, our HTML coding is. We bring in a CSS, in this case, we would add the style tags, and we need to save it. And in here, this is what we're going to do. We're going to change the color. Matter of fact, we're going to change the background color because right now, the background color is just white. This is where we can change that. For instance, just type in background. You type in this specific code, which is used a lot in CSS, especially when it comes to coloring and stuff like that. That being said, let's keep going. Let's say I want the background to be red. And if I were to pull it back up and reload the page, oh, it didn't happen. Yes. I'm just kidding. It didn't happen because we didn't add the body tag. This is something you got to keep in mind. We got to use a selector when doing this. A selector is essential for CSS. It involves the body tag. Now the body tag, we usually would see it in an HTML document, right here, for instance. But when we go to CSS, we need to use it differently. Like here it is, but it's actually in CSS a selector. Now, save it. Since we got our background color, let's bring back up. Make sure it's saved. Now we can reload it. There. We got the background to turn red. And yes, the images right here, they still got that whiteness in the square. That's because these are images from the internet, and this would require me to target them. But in this case, we're just sticking with learning how to do colors. And yes, as I mentioned before, like in here in the CSS, this would be a selector for the body. So we can have like control, just change a specific thing within the HTML. But in this case, it was the body. Now, moving on to another way. Let's say maybe we want to bring it back up. Maybe we want to change Nintendo consoles. So go back. Let's see. Oh yes, for under the H2 headings. Let's dive into it. Oh, sorry. we're gonna bring in another selector. And let's see, we want to change. Bam. See, we got to change blue. But in this case, I didn't have to like put in background and change it, because in this case, we're not doing background. We're just focusing on just changing the color in this case. Now, I did give you a taste of CSS and one way to bring in CSS. But in this case, I brought CSS in one HTML document. In this case, we don't have to have it all on one HTML coding page. We can actually have it separate. In this case, I could just copy all this, first delete it, get rid of the style, and when I reload the page again, it's back to the way it was from the beginning. Now, the second way, we're going to, well, I already created another page, but in this case, it's CSS. So, if I were to show you, in this case, save as, yes. Now, when you're opening up another document, in this case, it's not going to be like something.html. In this case, it's going to be, we want it to be style.css. And you'll find out why I put the 3. But in this case, style.css. And it's also going to be in the same folder as the Nintendo one. Yes, already have it. No need to replace it. There. Right now we have 2 now. 2 documents that are in the same folder. Now, since I already have it set up, you might be thinking, okay, then let's load her up. See how she looks. Oops, nothing happened. Well, in this case, we have to put in a specific code. Just need to go back to another to retrieve the code. Excuse me, just retrieving the specific code. This is actually from a different document. But that being said, the code in this case would be this right here. And this would actually go into the not the CSS coding. No, it would go into the HTML. So let's add it. But before I move further, I have to make sure that the style on .css right here matches the style for this one right here. It has to be style3.css, just like over here. So that way they can connect. Now, we got that all set up. Before moving any further, let's make some more adjustments. Set up. Okay, and let's load it. Bam. More color. So that ends with our third video on not only doing color, but also introducing you to a little bit of CSS, and we will be moving on to our next video. Thank you for watching.